What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with daily refinement in tech and sports. This might be the greatest eBay episode ever because we're going to go over how the king of listing tech and sports, probably, actually not probably, for sure, the greatest one-off eBay seller ever. I have talked to thousands of resellers in the last 4 years, and there's not one person who's even close to you in the number of items you have personally listed, and your store is the biggest one-off store. You've been doing this the longest. You have, and after we go over the process today, we're going to go over the process from A to Z, from getting the items in all the way to shipping. We're going to go over that whole process. I'm going to pick your brain and compare it with mine. I feel like I'm really efficient, but you list at 2.5 times the speed that I do. So this is going to be mind blowing because I feel like my process is pretty clean and I'm at 12 an hour. And after doing the math on yours, it's like 26, 27 items an hour. It's insane. So I'm super excited for this episode. You have any thoughts before we go over the process?
Well, I think that's like a mighty introduction for somebody who is, not as boastful, but, I have listed a tremendous amount of items over the course of my eBay career, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 or 400,000 items. This year alone, probably list somewhere, it's going to be 91,250 items this year alone. So the business has definitely increased this year. And, after you do something like a few 100,000 times, find the best way to do it and the fastest way to do it. And, maybe there are people out there who list more than me, but I think, most businesses as they scale, that's the first thing that gets outsourced is the listings. So they hire somebody else to do the listings, or they're a huge company that has multiple listers. So, I don't know if anyone has listed more than me. It's kind of crazy to think that nobody has. I'm sure there's somebody who has, but I've listed a lot of stuff. So I think or two to share.
There are teams of people who have listed more than you, and with my small team, this year we crossed over 27,000 listings roughly so far, but it's nowhere near as efficient as yours. And like we were talking about, if there was a club of the best resellers, I would still be waiting in line while you're at the VIP room inside because there's no one. You would just go straight in, and because of your insane process. But let's just get right into it. So let's say we're going to take it today from when we get the item. So we're going to start with sorting and prepping. This can take a lot of time. So items arrive at your door. What happens first?
Since now I have the brick and mortar store, it goes into one of two piles. One is the eBay pile, one is the brick and mortar store. They both sell different things because I don't sell like Tommy Bahama or Vineyard Vines in the brick and mortar store. That one is more like dedicated, like different kind of brands like streetwear or vintage and stuff like that. So probably the thing that saves me the most time when it walks in the door is now that I'm getting a supply brought into me and I don't have the thrift route anymore. Before I had a 45 store thrift route, I would come home and wash everything, which did take a lot of time. So the biggest time saver now is the people who supply me every single week. They have to wash everything when it comes in. So immediately everything is washed and prepped from the second it comes into the door, and it's ready to be put for sale either in the brick and mortar or online. So that saves a tremendous amount of time right there.
So before we get into the next step, I copied you. I tried to get some scouts to bring stuff to me. Same thing. They have to wash it and bring it to me. All of this stuff saves you time, and I don't have as sophisticated as sorting as you because of this. You have a store and brick and mortar, but in the store, do you put it in the piles of tops and bottoms, or is it sorted it all right there?
For the eBay store,
Yeah.
I sort it kind of in three different ways. Um, I have some bins next to me. This is how the sorting goes. I have a big table, and the eBay stuff goes on the right hand side. The stuff for the brick and mortar goes on the left hand side. And then I have two bins next to me. When I get shorts or swim trunks, those go in one of the bins. And when I get concert shirts, those go in another bin. Because that's like an easy way for me to cheat on the weekends and get 160 listings up. Because I can do 160 concert shirts like with my eyes closed. I could do 160 shorts with my eyes closed. So like those are cheap ones on the weekend. everything else goes in the pile to be done Monday through Friday. So that's the only like batch stuff that I sort. And it's just for, because I don't have people that help me 7 days a week. So 2 days a week I'm on my own. So that kind of like gives me a break and gives me a head start to, like, as crazy as it is, like only do 160 on the weekends.
So let's talk about detagging. This some of the stuff is used, it comes in. Are you doing any detagging or repairing or adjusting of the item?
They don't have a lot of tags for the most part. The only tags that would come would be brand new with tags. But when I went to the thrift store, like Goodwill would have like different color, I think they're called eyelashes, the little plastic things.
Hmm.
I would honestly leave them in the photos, because to dedicate the time to cut those, and that would be like a full-time job for somebody in itself. So I would just leave those in the photos. And I think, like, after listing hundreds of thousands of items, maybe three people asked me, "Oh, you got this from Goodwill. How can you charge so much?" And I would just reply and say, "That's my inventory system. So this shirt goes in the purple section. If it had green, it would go in the green section." So nobody ever called me out on it, hardly, but just the time it takes to cut off those things, that would be a whole 1 hour shift every single day on its own.
I agree with that. Okay, so items come in, you're not doing any repairing, or do you have a checklist to make sure there's no tears or stains or anything?
You know, with the amount of volume, it's hard to find 91,250 perfect items every single year. Like, maybe I can find 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 perfect items every single year. But then after that, things are going to have some type of issue or maybe a flaw. But even items with flaws and issues, they still sell, especially if they're vintage. So, like a Harley Davidson that has flaws or whatnot, it's still going to sell because that customer is still there for it. So during the sorting process, I pay zero mind to any flaws or issues, because just at the volume that I'm at, it's just going to be one of the things that's going to happen. So it just goes into the queue, and we're going to deal with it accordingly on the photos and the listing.
Awesome. We're going to talk about how to describe those defects in just a second. Okay, so now you have a pile. I assume the pile of stuff is near the photography area.
No, I have, like, in front of my house, there's like 1,200 square feet that's just totally empty on one side of my house. And that's where I sorted everything. And then I bring it over to the photography, which is not that far, but I just whole area where, because I don't want to like bring it all the way into the house. It stays by the door, and then we do everything over there. So luckily, I am able to have a nice large space to work with if need be.
Okay, so there's kind of a hack here because a lot of people in the clothing category spend a lot of time steaming, but I believe you lay your items flat. Does that get some of the wrinkles out? Are you doing that the night before? How does that work?
I have a queue that we work on. Um, we discussed it previously, but roughly, ideally, I would like to have it to be like 1 week to 10 days of a queue, but I've taken on more of a queue with the uncertainty of coronavirus and COVID shutting things down. And now that I do have people helping me, I have the added responsibility to have, maybe 1 month or a month and a half of a queue, just for the sake of job security. If things shuts down, I can't tell them, "Hey, too bad, you got to go home. I can't pay you for 2 months." Not going to work. That's not the responsible thing to do as I have a pretty large queue. And this just goes more into the point of things can sit around for 3 weeks or 1 month now. And it's not a death row, it's a rotating queue. And like I said, I need to have that because I have the responsibility to have work for these people. If everything shuts down for 2 months, I have a responsibility now. So everything gets stacked up in piles that could be 6, 7, 8 feet tall. And when you
Hmm.
stack it up perfectly flat, as long as it's perfectly flat, when you stack it, you can stack it for infinity, and it's going to come out wrinkle free. So, I've listed hundreds of thousands of items on eBay. I have never steamed one item, and I don't even own a steamer. So, as long as you lay them properly and it's not balled up and it's not thrown in the corner and it's dealt with as soon as you bring it home, stack it up nicely, it's going to be wrinkle free and presentable.
I copied that, so I have that pile now, and it's awesome. Especially if you leave it there for a couple of hours. If you prep the next days, the day before, it'll be relatively wrinkle free the next day, if not completely wrinkle free.
Yeah, close enough to where it doesn't justify steaming it or dealing with it would be fine.
Okay. So now the items are this is going to become pretty infamous, but you're photographers, and for you when you take your photos, you're not moving out of a 2 foot box.
Yeah, correct. So the photo station is not fancy at all. We have an 8 by 10 rug. So now I have two of these. I have enough space right now, it's enough setup to have four people, but only have two people taking photos right now. They both on either end of the rug. It's an 8 by 10 rug. They have two floor lamps on each on the corner, so four lamps in total. And to the left is just an upside down with a stack full of clothes that need to be photographed. On the right hand side is items that have been photographed. So they literally just take the time from the pile. We do flat lays, take the photos, and we put it on to the right hand side of us, which those are items that are photographed. Everything's going to be in order, which is going to come in handy when it comes time to list. So do come across an item that does have a flaw or does have an issue, we have a little piece of paper that we get right on top of the floor lamp that is easily gotten to where you don't even have to move your feet. So if there is an item, you just reach for the paper, you write it, you mark it, you list what kind of item it is, was put the paper right on top of the lamp. Something that I saw today, which only women can do, they keep the pen right in their hair. So there's no
Hmm.
walking around to get anything. There's no moving to get anything. I have floor mats that you would use a bathroom or floor that have padding in it, like foam. They stand on all day to take. So their entire photography workspace is in like 1 by 2 foot area. They don't leave the area because they don't have to. Everything is all set up and ready to go from 1 by 2 foot of space. There's no moving around. There's no doing anything extra. It's just from left to right. If there's a flaw, it's right here. The pencil goes right in the hair. Like your feet don't move the entire time. And the more movement you have, the more back and forth you have, the more spinning around you have, all of that adds up time. And for every item that we get up, 250 items per day, 10 seconds, an extra almost 45 minutes per day when you times it out by 250 items. So if I can find any way to save 5 seconds, now you're talking 20 minutes a day. We can get an extra 25 up per day if we save an additional 20 minutes, which is just a 5 second saving per item. So, once you scale it out, you're talking about shaving seconds is could be a matter of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per year in productivity.
So because we're going to talk about staging in just a moment, I hang my items and you do flat lay. Do they not have to move their feet to stage it flat when they're
They
when they're?
they stay on the carpet. You kind of just bend it over at the waist.
Hmm.
You hold it by the shoulder seams right here.
Hmm.
You kind of put it out, bring it back between your legs, throw it on the ground, and it's perfectly flat.
Are
There's no
they elevated at all?
reason coming down. Are they elevated?
At all?
No.
So they're tall enough to take that photo.
Yeah, and all the photos look alike. You wouldn't know if they took them, who took them. I don't even know who takes the photos. So everything is exactly identical. And this system that I'm talking about for photos is tried and true enough where, I have two helpers now, two employees that never ever taking photos or listed an item on eBay. And they literally came from off the streets and on the first day to photograph and list 100 items each per day, having never worked on eBay before taking. They listed 100 items each.
That concludes the free section of our podcast today. The full episode is an hour and 5 minutes, so there's 50 more minutes on our Patreon, and that's at patreon.com/the resellers podcast. That link is in the description below. For $5, you get full access to all of our episodes. We do one every single week. And also for $35, you can join our Facebook group, which has been incredible so far. It's really an accountability tool. You can put your process in there, what you're working on, and people will help you make it better, refine it so that you can get more done, make more money in less time, and have more time with your family. I think it's easy to misconstrue that people that work all the time don't have time. They're just choosing to work. Most of the people I know that have the opportunity to go like on a 50-year vacation like Tech and Sports, the reason why they have that freedom is because they have the discipline to build the process. So get in that group. It's inexpensive. If for any reason you're unsatisfied, we'll give you your money back. And then we have a high level VIP that's $100 a month. where we meet twice a month and go over your processes, the two of us and just a small group of people. So the Facebook group has been amazing, but this podcast is $5 a month, very inexpensive, but it allows us to put that together with no advertising on Patreon. So I know some people like to listen to this in their car, so that's all available in the Patreon group. Thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. And remember, we have a lot of information, and honestly, Tech and Sports is the greatest one-off seller I've ever met. In 4 years of meeting thousands of sellers, there's no one who's listed 300,000 items on their own. That's insane. So appreciate your time, guys. Until next time, make progress daily.